Cool, and welcome. Today's June 16th, 2021, and this is a Hunchly Desktop training session. I'm Justin Seitz. I'm just going to walk you through Hunchly Desktop today as I do basically any other customer, any new user, anybody who's never heard of Hunchly before. This is the exact same procedure we'll walk through together. I'll give lots of opportunities to ask questions. Please use the questions and answers box in the GoToWebinar interface to ask me those questions. This session is being recorded right now and will be posted online afterwards, so just watch your inbox for that. If you're not on our regular Hunchly mailing list, just head to our website and get on there. You can watch my Twitter feed. And of course, this is meant to be interactive, so if there are things, burning questions that you want answered, then definitely just let me know and I will do my best to answer them. I usually stay on the line until all the questions are answered. So I'll hang out and try to get through all of them. All right, so with that being said, hopefully you can see my screen and my audio is coming through loud and clear. If you can't see or you can't hear very well, unfortunately I can't fix it now once we get started. So just wait for the recording to come out. And what we're looking at right now is the Hunchly Dashboard. So Hunchly is a two-piece system. One piece lives in your browser, which we're going to get to shortly, and one piece lives right here in the dashboard. Now this is where you manage cases, where you'll see we're going to review materials that we've collected, as well as kind of use some of our investigative tools. Now, the cool thing with Hunchly and why people generally really like this tool is because it's super easy to get going with. So if you have a busy day today, you don't have to hang out for an hour. This first 5 minutes will get you up and running with the basics of Hunchly, where you'll get the most value immediately. After the first 5 minutes, it's a lot of me telling bad jokes and browsing around the internet. So to get started, and this is really the key part, if you're just new to Hunchly or you need a refresher, in this interface, you will always have an unassigned case. It is just a catch-all case that always shows up. So our first step is to create a new case. So by clicking the top left, we go new case. And we're going to investigate me. As you all know, this is what I always do for our demos. So we're going to investigate Justin Seitz. That's it. Job done in the dashboard. Okay? You don't need to look at it anymore. If you don't want to look at it, you don't have to. Now we can just open the browser. So I'm opening Google Chrome. And it's important when I say browser, what browser actually means in Hunchly land. It's anything but Firefox. Look at it that way. You can use it on anything that's not Firefox or Firefox derived. So that means Chrome, Chromium, Microsoft Edge, as well as Brave, the privacy browser. There's a number of other kind of spin-off projects out there, but those are the big ones. Unfortunately, Firefox does not support MHTML capture. Okay, so I've got Chrome open. Now, with Hunchly installed, you should see a little kind of red, gray, crossed out thing here. If you don't, click this little puzzle piece in the top right. And there's this pin here. This will just pin it to this bar. So if I unpin it, this is what it looks like by default. So you'll kind of wonder where Hunchly is. All right, pin it. Now it's going to stay there. All right, cool. So to get started, there's only 2 clicks. One, we want to turn on the automatic capture system. So what this is going to do is capture every page we browse to. You don't have to operate it in this mode. This is the mode I use it in. This is the mode most of our customers use it in because it provides the most value and it kind of creates that nice breadcrumb trail for you. But that's one click. And the other click is just picking the right case. Okay? So that's it. Okay, that's all you need to do. And now I'm going to teach you how to do evidence capture. And we're done. Literally. It actually wasn't 5 minutes. It was 2.5. So that's it. Just by browsing to google.com, Hunchly picked that up. It said, hey, we're going to capture this page. It's a new URL we browse to. It timestamps it, hashes it, stores it on your hard drive, and it also stores it in that Justin Seitz case that we selected, all without me clicking a button or having to think about it. So what that means is I can actually just start investigating, right? I can start doing Google searches, digging into my other tools. And the great thing is that when Hunchly is doing evidence capture, it is preserving all the text, all the images, everything that you see here. So this gives us a very nice copy of what the investigators saw on that day when they were looking at it, including where these links go. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is just pop back to the dashboard so you can see some of the fruits of our labor. Nice. So we got 2 pages. We've done 1 search. And I can look down here in my history view and click on this Google search result page. Okay, so this content is being loaded off of your hard drive. This is a permanent preserved copy of this page. Okay, so the cool thing is that we have this forever now. It's like our own little Wayback Machine. But we also have other information here that's important if you have to take these materials to court or you need to back it up because you're writing a story. All the information that you really need, which is what did you see down here, the content, where did you see it, the URL, when did you see it, the timestamp, and of course the hash will allow you to submit this page as evidence to a third party. It allows you to at least say that the act of transmitting that evidence between you and that third party did not alter the evidence. So that's it, really. Like in about 2 or 3 minutes, you can set up a new case. Again, just to review, to set up a new case is just to click up here in the top left and go new case. And I added a Justin Seitz case. A couple of clicks in the Chrome extension and you can be off and investigating. And that's really why people really like Hunchly, is that the kind of barrier to entry is very low. All right, questions. I see a couple of questions already. So let me switch back here and see if I can't get this. All right. Just got to expand the questions window. The GoToWebinar interface at times leaves much to be desired. All right. Yes, this is recorded. Cool. Okay, cool. So I just reviewed that. Also, if you have tabs opened, when you turn on Hunchly, does it record all tabs? So yes and no, I would test that. In some cases, it will record all the tabs. In some cases, depending on what's in those tabs, it won't trigger a capture. So test it. So just do a test where you have all these tabs previously open and then install Hunchly and see if it captures them and see which ones it does, because it's not really designed to do that. It's designed to be following you as you investigate. So as you kind of move through URLs or content changes on a page. So definitely, Marissa, check that out. All right, can you change the case name? You bet you can. So let's go back to my other screen that I accidentally clicked on because GoToMeeting is awful here. All right. So to change the case name is right here. These 3 little dots right beside the case name. It's got rename case and other options here, okay? So that's where you can do it, right there. All right, cool. No other questions about page capture or anything else so far, it looks like. That's great. So let's move right along into the fun stuff. So one of my favorite features and an extremely useful investigative tool is our selector system. So selectors are a way for you to just put in keywords or pieces of information that are critical to your investigation. And Hunchly will automatically track that piece of information across every page that you browse to. So how this actually looks and works is like this. I'm going to add a new selector. And for example, the subject of your investigation is a great selector, right? Their name, for example, you could add maybe they got a social media user handle, email address. For phone numbers, the trick I tell people is just use the last 4. So the last 4 digits of the phone number. That means you are going to get some false positives later on, but it will do a good job of at least picking it up. Now, what's happened here is I put in Justin Seitz, JMS.py, and 4556. And we see the count go to 1 on both of these. And now we have this blue badge in the history view. And what this is telling you is that when you add a new selector today, Hunchly will search backwards to your case, looking for that selector and automatically tag those pages with it. So this is really handy because as you investigate, as you know, after a week or 2 of investigating someone, you might discover a new email account and you punch that in as a selector. And then when it comes back on the Hunchly dashboard, it says, hey, you got 10 hits. That's actually telling you you encountered that important piece of information at some point in the past, right? And it's time to go back and review your case materials. So this is really handy. We also have ways of highlighting selector on screen and some other options that you can explore at your own leisure in the settings panel. But now what will happen, I'm just going to refresh this page. Now, a few things are going to happen. One is you can see that Hunchly now has this red badge that's glowing up here on the Chrome extension. That's telling you that there's a selector hit. So it's telling us we have 2 selectors on this page that have got hit. The cool thing is it's actually searching the underlying source code. So sometimes Hunchly's selector searching will actually pick stuff off that it won't be visually evident to you on the page. So sometimes it's good to come in here and check, or you can turn selector highlighting on, which will highlight them on the page. But now everywhere I go, Hunchly is effectively doing a Control or Apple F on your keyboard, to find something on a page. It's doing that constantly in the background on every page that we browse to, automatically assigning those selector hits for us. So this is really useful because in complex investigations for myself, when I'm doing fraud investigations, I can't keep track of all the names, who's who, or whatever, or what's important. So I just punch them all in as selectors as I keep adding people or locations or whatever. And Hunchly just manages looking for those things for me while I do my usual investigative work. The other cool thing is you can then filter your history view by clicking on a selector. And this is showing us only hits that have Justin Seitz on the page. Okay, so again, really useful. It's designed to kind of work in the background like your own little kind of investigative helper, but it is truly powerful because it sometimes finds stuff for me that I just never would have found otherwise. All right, any questions about selectors or otherwise? I see a few. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee too. How well does it interact with the browser like DuckDuckGo? So I think DuckDuckGo, unless DuckDuckGo has a browser I'm not aware of, which I'll apologize in advance for, but it works fine on a search engine like DuckDuckGo. It picks up the results just fine. If DuckDuckGo's got a browser, then that's cool. I'll want to check that out. But generally speaking, if it's based on Chromium, the browser, it'll pick up Hunchly just fine. All right. All right. Here's a good question. If using this Hunchly on a tool that is using Chrome, sometimes it doesn't capture my contents correctly. Is it better to right-click and capture when my screen is displaying what I want to capture? So what this user is describing is a situation where sometimes, depending on like when a pop-up occurs on the screen, things like Instagram and Facebook, which I'll show you here in a bit, you sometimes have to kind of work around it. So Hunchly will work great for about 99% of the web, and then there's these corner cases, and sometimes the corner cases are one website, but you spend a ton of time on them, like Facebook, for example. So I'm going to show you some strategies throughout to kind of deal with things like Instagram, Facebook, and how to deal with troublesome content. So we'll address this as we go, but it's a good reminder. All right. All right, so did the selectors count on the search query input field? No, so the selectors are just counting, basically it's internally just searching for these terms in the database and then automatically assigning them. So it's, as I browse around, every page I browse to, it's doing it automatically in the background. All right, I'm gonna field one more. All right, cool. I'm gonna, will Hunchly capture and selector hits will trigger on scrolling sites even if content is unloaded from the page? So that's a good question, Seth. So as soon as it sees the content, it will trigger on the selector, but I don't know what will happen after the content unloads. But I'll show you a strategy for those types of problems, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook coming up. All right, so I'm gonna leave, there's about 2 or 3 questions left. We'll get to them in a little bit. Let's move things along. So that was selectors. Now, another thing that we can do is we can tag our content to keep it organized. So what this will allow us to do, particularly if you run complex investigations or you are in law enforcement, for example, disclosure can be a pain in the ass because assembling all of this stuff can take a lot of time. So that's why we designed tags. So tags are really the way that you can save yourself a lot of headache, keep your cases organized, and they don't take a lot of effort, but you can also do exports on them later based on tags. So you can export just stuff that you've tagged, for example, social media. Or depending on the type of case you're working, maybe you're working a white collar fraud case. So we're gonna say like large ticket assets, right? So any pages or records that indicated large ticket assets like yachts and houses and whatever. So as we're browsing around, doing our work, we'll just find another page to go to. Let's see if they'll let me browse to LinkedIn. Often it doesn't. Let's do a quick security check. No, don't. Just let me, it's fine. Let's stop that. Oh, okay. So what I'm gonna do is just show you how to tag this. So clicking on the Chrome extension, we go to tags, and now this is a social media site. So for example, I'm just going to hit the social media tag. That's it. Now, again, I find a picture of a yacht or a boat or a house or whatever. I'm going to tag that page with the other tag. And the great thing is this allows us to kind of sort and filter in our dashboard, so we can sort based on tag if we want to. So we can say, show me all of the social media posts that you have. You can also say, show me all of the social media posts that included Justin's sites on them. So you can kind of start to slice and dice and do a bit more analytical work on your case data. So that's really cool. The other thing you can do is you can actually mark pages as important, which is kind of what I call like a super tag. It's designed to, really bring the important stuff forward. And how you can do that is here, right beside the case name, you hit this gold star. Only time you'll see my name with a gold star beside it. And yes, I make that joke every single demo, so you're gonna have to hear it a lot. I'm sorry. All right. So what this does is in the interface, we see here this gold star shows up. I can click this gold star right here, and it's going to filter it. So we try to design it to give you a lot of flexibility so you can kind of dig into your case data a little bit more. All right. And if you ever make a mistake or you ever forget to tag something or you need to undo something, from your page review screen, just that panel in the top right, when you have tags available, they'll show up down here. So we can actually tag things retroactively if we want to. Okay, cool. It looks like there's a few questions, so I'm going to take the opportunity to see what we got. All right. Are we able to redact certain areas of an image for court, for example, masking the investigator's Facebook account name? So no, that's a good question, Stephen. Excellent question. No, but we have some very nice prototypes built in-house because we have been thinking long and hard about this problem. We've been talking to our customers in law enforcement, private industry, and everywhere else about redaction, how we can bring tools forward to do redaction safely. So all of that is coming down the pipeline. So if you're interested in hearing more or you work for a law enforcement agency, just reach out to me and I'm happy to just address it more directly or in more detail. Okay, cool. All right, so this is a long question. Just give me one moment. I'm gonna mute, sip coffee, read this. I didn't go anywhere, so everybody can take a stretch. It's a long one. All right, coffee has been drank, doesn't matter. So the the question is really around selectors, and sometimes selectors pick up a ton of stuff and I don't want all of that garbage. Is there a way to use the dashboard to filter out only the selector hits that are on the page itself? So you don't want the stuff that's on the underlying source code. That one is trickier. No, I think the best thing that you could do would be to start thinking about our full text search. So in that case, what I would look at doing is maybe something like, I would do like a search for a selector like Justin Sites, and then it would be in or page. Hold on, I actually don't remember. I always forget my own search syntax. Hold on. So our full text search can actually probably solve this for you. Sports.hunch.ly. See, I go to our getting started guide all the time. I send people here all the time. Full text searching in Hunchly. URL content, right. So what you would do then is you would say content Justin Sites, right? And that would allow you to just only look in the content. If there was JavaScript, you can also use the JavaScript field. So you can use the negative modifier to remove any hits from the JavaScript field. So there's positive and negative modifiers. And then we have a whole bunch of examples. Like you can say, basically, it's a very Google-like syntax, actually. Most people don't realize that Hunchly has this really cool search interface built into it. Because I just don't get to it in demos because there's a bunch of other stuff to cover. So try messing around with our full text search, and I will actually give you the URL here to that, and see if that works. If it does not work for you, please just reach out and we'll try to find another strategy. DuckDuckGo has a mobile browser app. Cool, I had no idea. Are search results stored in the cloud? And if so, what security provisions are there? No, we never touch the cloud, ever. There's no, Hunchly is designed to work in a silo. So it's deployed in undercover operations, journalists have to use them. There are human rights researchers in hostile countries that use it. So no, it can be configured for collaborative purposes to forward traffic to an internal server if you want, or an external server. But by default, Hunchly never connects to the internet on its own. Its license keys are offline. There is no automatic updates, and we never, ever, ever collect any metrics or usage statistics. So we've had to pass a number of security screenings for a number of federal and international agencies. If you ever need more information on that, just feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk some more about it. Cool. Our tags, selectors, and notes we make on captures in Hunchly included when creating an export. No, we have done a terrible job of reporting in Hunchly. So we've been on about a, 10-month project of collecting feedback from our customers, building prototypes, and now we're actually in development of a new report builder that will give you a much better interface to build reports in Hunchly, because the current one leaves a lot to be desired, including using tags and other things. All right, we are going to move on. We've covered a few things. I just want to make sure we cover the core stuff within the hour. So we've done selectors and tags. Now let's talk about notes. And this ties in really nicely with talking about troublesome content or pages that are unloading content. So what I mean by that is if we take a look at a page like, let's go Instagram.com Amber Mac. I pick Amber Mac because Michael Basil always picks Amber Mac, and I actually used to watch Amber Mac way back in the day on and others who are now other personalities, but there used to be this like G4 Tech TV channel back in the day that was amazing. Anyway, so the trouble here is as I scroll down this page, right, what you'd expect Hunchly to be doing is preserving all of this, right? So as we scroll down, it's doing its thing. It detects more pictures, it captures, I keep scrolling, I get this pop-up, right? So the pop-up's annoying, whatever the case may be. And then I go into my dashboard and I'm like, cool, let's go review this page. Okay, so problem number one, this sucker, right? This thing, this login to continue box. Now, technically, this is the most accurate view of the last thing that happened on that page, right? I mean, technically. Now, the other problem is, though, is that look at all this blank content space. Where did all those pictures go, right? There's this huge blank area, and then the pictures start down here, but we know there was pictures up top because we saw them, right? So it's like it only got some of the page, didn't collect all of the top. But what's really happening, right? Well, what's happened is Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, likely more websites, have started to move to just a different programming model. And so what happens is, as we scroll down this page, as those items get scrolled off the page, Instagram's actually unloading them from the document, from the page. So what happens is they get unloaded, and then Hunchly does its capture. So it doesn't see them anymore because technically they're not there anymore. So Hunchly's doing its job, technically, but it's not exactly the result that we want. And the really funny thing is if you've been doing investigations for a while, you will have remembered this happening to you, right? Where you scroll down 5 years ago, you start scrolling down Facebook or Twitter, and your computer fan turns on because it's like the page is so long and the page starts like dragging and like slowing down. And this is really designed to help assist with some of that, make these websites more responsive. So how do we fix this, right? Well, for one, to avoid that whole pop-up thing, if we wanted to capture something down here, we wanted to get something on screen, there's a couple of things we can do. One is that we can force a manual capture. So this is always, just by right-clicking Hunchly 2, take a capture. This is going to force a capture at this moment in time. It's not always guaranteed to be exactly what we want, but it's a good shot at, if you know there's pop-ups or things that are going to happen, that's a good shot at trying to get a nice content capture of what you see without that pop-up showing up. Okay, so that's strategy number one. Now, the other thing is sometimes that just won't work. Some websites just do funky things. So what we have to rely on is Hunchly's note-taking system. So what we are able to do with a note anywhere on a page, any page, right-click, Hunchly 2, take note. And what a note in Hunchly is a screenshot backed by a content capture, but it allows us to add some context. So, Amber Mac Instagram profile. So what Hunchly's doing here is it's taking a screenshot, it's doing a capture, and now at least we have a screenshot of what we're truly after, right? The content or whatever it is on the page that was important to us. And notes are extremely useful because they give you this investigative timeline. As you're kind of discovering things and you're taking notes, they keep showing up here. They got kind of a visual reference for you. It's a great way to get yourself back up to speed when you've kind of taken a few days off of your investigation, for example. So this is really cool. So that's strategy number 2, is you can use notes to catch those times when content is tricky to capture. Now, strategy number 3 is a little more aggressive, but it will do the trick. And this is the one that I use. So in our settings panel, we actually have this setting that says page capture sensitivity. And by default, it's set to major changes only. Now, if you set it to all changes beta, this changes how Hunchly works everywhere. But I will turn this setting on if I have to go capture some Instagram captures or do some Twitter or Facebooking, and here's why. What happens now is instead of Hunchly continually overwriting content or giving me these big blank spaces, is every time I scroll down and Hunchly detects more content, it's generating a fresh page capture. So you're going to start to see a bunch of captures showing up here, one after the other. It will be pretty aggressive as you go on through time. The list will kind of start to grow, and it'll start building out this list of long page captures. So it's aggressive. You're going to consume a lot more disk, and it's going to be a lot nastier to use in terms of it's going to produce reams of updates, but you will have this very nice, complete, searchable archive. So you can always go back and just pluck out the exact captures that were important to you. But at least when you go to court, you have this complete thing, like, here's this record of me doing this. Here's why it looks this way or had to be preserved this way. So it's not an unreasonable thing. It's not like an unreasonable barrier either. So those are some strategies that involve note-taking, manual captures, as well as using some of our page capture sensitivity settings. All right, so I'm going to turn that back. Any questions about any of that? And I see there's a few questions that have built up already. Can I remove captured pages that aren't relevant to the investigation? You bet you can. You just go like this, boop, boop, I don't like you. You can click delete here. Okay, so you just click on them anywhere in this white area. This is how I usually do it because I'm a terrible clicker. So I just click in these big white areas, right? And you can either click here to kill that one page, or you can go delete like this. Or another strategy, sometimes what will happen is somebody will like go off and you'll collect like 30 pages of some website like your bank or something, right? Or maybe you want to get rid of all your Google searches. So you go like this, google.com filter right here, and then just go select all. And now you just go delete, and you've blown away all of them that have that in the URL. So the top one's linked in because there's probably a refer in the URL or somewhere. So, but again, like this is a quick way you can quickly see, filter, delete, get rid of it. You can also move it to a different case. So if you forgot to select the right case, no need to panic. You can always move them afterwards. All right. Cool. You have a notification next to your Hunchly icon. When does it get activated? Oh, in the Chrome extension. Yes, hopefully I covered that in the selector section, where just by browsing to a page that has selector hits on it, you'll see that little red badge appearing. That's telling you got a selector hit. It's telling you have 2, in fact, because there's a little number 2 there. And that's just telling you that that's what you got. It's automatic. So yeah, it's just an automatic notification. Yes, the report building is terrible. Thank you, Arthur. I appreciate that piece of feedback. I agree wholeheartedly. All right, what about the Instagram tool thing? Sorry, not sure on what you're referring to, Quentin. If you mean like the old bookmarklet, it was just kind of a workaround thing, but we don't have any other tools for Instagram. Cool. Yeah, so someone's asking, and again, if you can keep your questions to shorter length, if you have longer, more involved questions, send them as emails, please. But someone is just saying, you know, does the note-taking feature, does it date and timestamp the notes? Yes, everything in Hunchly is date and timestamp. So you can see here when you take a note, The Hunchly note is date and timestamp. We have captures. Everything is date and timestamp. So you don't have to worry about doing that because that is a major function of documentation, having date and timestamps for everything. All right, cool. If your tool settings is titled beta, have you ever had a legal challenge to your tool being beta on some features? No, never. Have I ever had police definitely ask me about every possible legal challenge though? Absolutely. So keep them coming. So no, we've never had that. We've never once actually. I mean, we get asked all the time, right? But you know, my default answer for 99% things is, does the court call into question when you send in a JPEG with nothing but a URL written beside it? Not really, ever, in my experience, actually. And I've been on the stand, been involved in cases. Like, I just don't see it that often. The problem is if you submit that JPEG without a URL or a timestamp, then you're going to have problems. So for a lot of what we do, we are always answering these questions. So no, we've never had a legal question. And most people don't know this, but I actually sit on the International Criminal Court, or Technical Advisory Board. And the International Criminal Court, as you can imagine, has, in the last few years, digital evidence has changed prosecution. So a lot of what we talk about and a lot of what we discuss at the Berkeley Human Rights Center is centered around like handling evidence and court challenges and that kind of thing. But the reality is that court has become so adversarial that people are worried about being challenged on everything. So the default barrier or kind of benchmark I give to people is, if what you're going to ask in terms of being challenged in court is anything different or is already more than getting a screenshot, a JPEG with a URL and timestamp, of which I've seen submitted numerous times, then the question is likely that we're not going to get challenged on it. So, but the important thing is just always having times, hashes, stuff stored locally, and as long as you can speak to it, in our experience, that's what's important to the court. Cool. Perfect. No problem. No problem. Questions coming in out of order. No problem. Awesome. Awesome. What does Hunchly capture? Ooh, this is a good one. So what does Hunchly capture if we were watching a video? Well, what Hunchly will capture is the page around it, but it does not capture the video itself. So in more advanced webinars, which will be probably one next week, you'll see me actually using a YouTube video downloader, doing some advanced stuff with it, because Hunchly can't extract video off the page without running into problems with Google. So Google has the ability to just flip a switch and turn our extension off overnight, which would blank everybody out. So we follow the rules very closely, and we have to pass Google's security rules and all that jazz. And so we don't extract video off of YouTube or anywhere else to avoid just largely American litigation is the reality. So that being said, what we are just showing people instead is, here's how you can plug Hunchly into a Python script that will download all the videos you want, and the closed captions for you, and all the metadata, and store it for you and hash it, so that you can use it. But it's not Hunchly itself doing it, it's Hunchly that's driving the process. So I'm going to be spending more and more time teaching people this, and we actually have a Hunchly Training Institute that's going to be launching very soon that will start teaching courses on doing some of these things that are just kind of outside of what Hunchly can do within kind of our regular risk parameters. Awesome. So I think I answered a couple of questions there right in a row about video. Good answer. Thank you. You're welcome. Keep them coming. You guys have great questions today. This is great. All right. Let's move on to images. This is usually a pretty interesting section of the demo. People really like this. So Hunchly actually does a few things with images. We extract every image off of every page, hash it, and store it separately on disk. So this may not be super useful for every single investigator out there, but what it stemmed from was investigators working in human trafficking and child exploitation. So what it allows them to do is have this corpus of images that they can submit to the tools like Griffi, who make our competitor tool Paliscope. Griffi is this amazing image analysis platform. Paliscope's kind of part of the larger product family over there. But what police officers will do is just grab all these images and toss it in, right, when they're doing child exploitation investigations and other things. So this is really useful. But part of this as well is we are also looking at those images for EXIF metadata. And if we can find EXIF metadata present in the images, we'll bring them forward to you here in the dashboard. And you can actually click on this EXIF badge and see information about the photograph. For example, when it was allegedly taken. For example, it says it was taken with a BlackBerry. I was the last person on Earth with a BlackBerry, what version of it was. So this can be really interesting. And if you're ever looking for a good test site to test that out on, go to arstechnica.com, which is a popular tech news website. And just hitting the homepage is loaded. Oh, there's some new games. Shiny thing. Cool. Have to check that out. But their homepage and everywhere else is loaded with metadata for whatever reason. So it's great. There's examples of journalists taking pictures. You can see this really detailed description of this building taken with a Nikon. So, and the other cool thing is our full text actually picks up all of that. So if I do search for BlackBerry, for example, it is not returning me results for pages, it's returning me results for images that had BlackBerry in the EXIF metadata. So that means that if you're like hunting down a particular photographer or someone who's taking a set of images and videos, you can actually start searching around for indicators like camera parameters and other things that might be common across multiple pages or cases. So that all happens all on its own in the background. And if we're able to extract GPS coordinates from it, we will also provide you a link to where the photograph was allegedly taken. Okay, really cool stuff. If you don't need all of this running, like all this image extraction, EXIF metadata stuff, in your settings, you can actually turn it off and Hunchly will run quite a bit faster. So extract images, I leave it on, but you can turn it off and Hunchly will run a lot faster because it's not having to process like hundreds of images and scan them for metadata. Okay, any questions about images, how we work with them? Let's have a look. Cool. I think I've answered the video stuff. Cool. So running into trouble preserving PDFs. Now, that might be a bug right now. Let me confer with our team first. But just a strategy for dealing with PDFs. And actually, this is a great segue just directly into the next section, which is, in general, dealing with binary files like documents, PDF, whatever. Being able to just bring other files like video, for example, into Hunchly. So this is how our attachment system works. So our attachment system works by simply clicking the add button and we can just add a file if we want. So if you got files, maybe somebody has sent something to you or whatever, or maybe just want to bring it into Hunchly so that you have a hash of a file, you can do that just by adding it there and it will tell you that it was added manually. You've got a snippet of the hash. And clicking the file, it's worth noting, this warning is actually a warning, right? You're to open this attachment. So if that's a virus or whatever, if you're doing malware research, it's going to execute and run. In this case, clicking OK shows you a little logo of Hunchly. Usually I have a little picture of a baby raccoon. And this is really nice because it also allows me, how I use this is I'll add files and then annotate them, like logo of Hunchly or whatever the case may be. Or if somebody sent me something, then I'll just pop it into my case and add a note with when it was sent to me. You got a timestamp. Cool. Now, the other thing we can do is we can turn on download attachments. And what that will do right here, attach downloads, sorry, I misspoke, attach downloads. What we want to do here is turn this on. So when we're browsing around, we download a Word document, we download a PowerPoint, stuff that our browser won't run on its own. When that download occurs, Hunchly makes a byte-for-byte copy, so it makes a copy of the file, brings it into the Hunchly case, and will also tell you where you downloaded it from. So I'm just going to do a quick search for file type docx and Australian miniature shepherd. Don't tell my wife that I'm Googling this right now. All right, what do we got? Perfect, so we've downloaded the minutes of some kennel association. I don't know. Awesome, let's take a look. And of course, so I actually noticed in my own development build here in my VM, this happened to me yesterday with my, I have like a special version of Chrome that I was having trouble with it triggering downloads of anything. So you can see I just clicked that and I think that Chrome's actually got a bug. You can see that? I'm clicking, but the Chrome ain't downloading. So I tested it in their dev version of Chrome too, and the same thing was happening to me. So I don't know if anybody else is running into this, but it happened to me more than a few times, and I checked in the dev branch of Chrome and my regular one, and for some reason, like sometimes Chrome just doesn't actually want to download a file for me if it's a docx. or anything else. And you can see it actually doesn't trigger. You can't see the download at all. But if you punt everything and try to click on their Google Downloads again, so if I go back to Google, you're watching me test software in real time. I go back there and I'll just switch it to something faster to search for. You may still get the issue. It doesn't happen as often. Like, look at that. It's really weird. So it does mess with my ability to download things properly because there's some weirdness going on in the browser these days. So let me just pop the dashboard back open. Here, you can look at a picture of a baby raccoon while we wait. See, that's Smudge. That was last year. I'm not going to be able to volunteer at the rescue this year, but she hopefully is still out in the wild. She was amazing. And that's my thumb. Cool. Let's take a look at attachments. There we go. So yeah, weird thing in Chrome. Looks like a little bug that they got going on somewhere. But we can see we pulled down that last document. We've got a URL, tells us where we got it, and we got a hash. The other cool thing is if you guys need me to show you this before everybody leaves, I can pull Hunchly Mobile out. When you build a Hunchly Mobile case and import it into Hunchly Desktop, they show up as attachments in this panel. So that's where Hunchly Mobile shows up. If anyone demo of that today, after we get to the end, I'm happy to stick around and do a quick demo. All right, so that is attachments. Really useful. I use the attached downloads thing, but again, review your IT security policies and your department policies. That might not be something people want done. All right, any questions? There are questions. All right, so that was also to address the PDFs and other document question. It's just pulling them down as downloads. That will, Hunchly will attach them in like that. Okay. Oh no, I just deleted a question. Somebody had a question that was about images. This happens to me every webinar. I'm so sorry, whoever that was. For photo dates, does it give you the date it was created or the date that photo was created? For example, if someone made a copy of a photo before uploading it. Yeah, so in the EXIF metadata, it's supposed to be telling you the original photo date, like when that actual photo was taken on the device it was taken. But you can't trust it because people can manipulate it, right? So what you would do is the metadata is telling you what the alleged date and time of the photograph is. But if somebody made a copy of it or manipulated it anyway, it's not going to tell you that. There are other tools probably that you can use that. But no, any of the metadata in a photograph you can't trust. You can use it to find leads, you can corroborate it, but you can't just implicitly trust it. All right? How do you generate a report for an attorney? So Ron, we might not get to that at the end, but we do have this report builder here, this export builder, open report builder right there, along with our knowledge base support.hunch.ly. So a report builder is a bit of a pain to use. I find it a pain to use. I personally use Microsoft Word to write my reports, and I build very simple reports in Hunchly. So if we have time, I'll demo that at the end. But that's it. You use that report builder, and we have a fancy, pretty new one coming. There we go. Cool. So Sabrina, hopefully I answered the question about the photos. All right, I'm going to take a quick sip of coffee here. One sec. A giant sip of coffee. All right, let's talk about searches. So the searches panel is a convenience panel for you to help you when you're doing your investigative work, both kind of to show you where you're doing your work and maybe some of the keywords you've been punching in. It's looking at all the major search engines, all of the major social media platforms, and just trying to keep track of the stuff you're searching for. What I personally find it useful for is when I get investigator's block or I get that kind of like pissed off feeling where I don't know like what else to look at. Often I come into the searches panel and I see exactly what we see here, is that I've done all my searches on Google and I have done nothing on a different search engine, right? So it's a good reminder for me, go to Yandex, run the same keyword search, right? And already we can see stuff that's different, right? We can see like the first result on Yandex is not a result to me, it's actually a pirated copy of one of my books that someone's hosting online, right? So this is distinctly different than what Google was picking up. So already I'm encountering information investigatively that I didn't have before. So that's all this is for. It's just kind of a nice way to see what you've been searching for and where, and I use it as a way to kind of break out of some search bias. All right, not a whole lot there. If you got any questions, go ahead and file them. I'm going to move on. Let's talk about our data panel. So what we're doing as you're browsing around is we're looking for little pieces of information. We're looking to see if we can extract things like Google Analytics codes from pages. Can we find things like email addresses, right? So as you're browsing around, we can actually discover email accounts and other things. This will allow you to pull these things into other tools like Spiderfoot, like EchoSec, LifeRaft, Navigator, Scope Now, like all of these things. This is a super useful way to kind of get these leads. And in a lot of cases, it will pull content off of the source code that you wouldn't see otherwise. So you'll find little interesting tidbits here and there. We have a bunch of different data patterns that we look for. And you can export this stuff into Spiderfoot. Actually, they have a specific importer. Or you can get it out to a CSV and import it into other tools or write Python scripts over top of it. Really useful stuff, mainly used for just leads, like particularly. Okay, if you ever want to figure out where this came from, or you see like this has got a bunch of page results, you can apply it as a filter by clicking that blue arrow on the right. So clicking that will apply it as a filter in your history view. And this is showing you all pages that had Amber at ambermac.com, right? And then we can see some false positive hits for 4556 because that was a phone number I'd set up, right? So, cool. All right. No questions. I see one of my friends is on here. I see you, and you're funny, and I can't wait to see you again. Karim, you're outed now. Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about how we can get data out of Hunchly now. So we covered all the ways of getting stuff in. Now we need to get stuff out. So we need to do court disclosure. We need to back our cases up. We need to send a case to a colleague. We need to send a Hunchly case to somebody who doesn't have Hunchly. So let's cover all those things right now. The first thing I want to cover, and what is really important, is being able to export your case. And it is the first and most obvious button. You click this export case button, pick a spot, so I'm going to save it to the desktop, and Hunchly is going to assemble this entire case into a zip file for you. So depending on what your use, there's a few things you can do with a zip file. Now one, hold on, if I could only right click properly, extract all. So on Windows, you want to right click and go extract all. On Mac, you can just double click because it's the superior operating system. And here we go. Here we go, good. So this is what a case export looks like. Pretty well labeled if you need to find something, right? But what's particularly useful is this report. So I'm going to open this actually in Chrome, not in Edge. Perfect. So here is the report that gets shipped out. Now, this is like a little miniature dashboard. So a user does not need to have even an internet connection. So I can actually disconnect the internet from this virtual machine and just show you this. I love doing this on demos. Woohoo! You guys got to watch me play. So my high score is 71. I just need to jump one tree. That's it. You see? That's it. 58 is fine. So no internet, right? And what we can do is still have somebody explore this Hunchly case file and be able to go through and take a look at the materials that they had captured, right? So no requirement to have Hunchly installed, none of that, all the attachments, photos, notes, everything is here. I actually skipped over the fact, completely missed, that you can right click on an image and add a caption to it. So when you're browsing, you can actually just right click on an image and do that. Totally blew past that. It's like taking notes, but for images. So that is our little nice, tidy case export. This is also just as a note for those of you that work in law enforcement or in auxiliary services. If you ever have a witness or victim and it's safe for them to use it, Hunchly Desktop can be downloaded without credit card, no email required, no nothing. You can actually download Hunchly. You can use just the attachments. So we have it unlocked, so you can use attachments. And what you could do is have victims or witnesses build you case files like this. So they could add stuff here on their desktop. They can add stuff like, this is screenshot of threat from May 31st, 2021, right? So they can actually build these for you and just export it to you. And we actually have a whole guide online on how to do this. because a big issue we have seen, and I have seen both as a victim advocate and in my years of working with law enforcement, is so digitalevidenceguide.com is just something. Oh, right, I don't have internet. Sometimes getting the information, just getting stuff from a victim or witness is really difficult, and it's hard on the victim or witness. So we have a guide here, and our mobile application is free. It was designed specifically for that use case. So victims and witnesses, under the direction of a lawyer or an investigating officer, can use Hunchly Desktop for free or Hunchly Mobile for free to build evidence packages. And then instead of sending you an email with no context and 17 attachments, you get a report that looks exactly like this with notes and a way for you to kind of go through them methodically. Okay, cool. Thought I would get that all in there. Awesome. So that's exporting cases. If we need to import cases, so same deal. If you're importing a case from Hunchly Mobile or you're importing a case from another Hunchly Desktop user, you click that plus button, import case, you select new case or add to existing case. So generally when I'm working with Hunchly Mobile, I add to existing case and just bring it into the normal desktop case. If it's a new case, or if it's like a regular Hunchly Desktop case, I'm generally creating a new case. So it's like I'm importing like Justin Sites 2 or something or whatever. Then it's just a matter of picking the zip file. Okay, that's my case export. Hit import, everything will come back in. So all your notes, all your attachments, all the pages you captured, and you can literally just pick your investigation up and keep going. So this is super useful because, as you all know, what you discover today does not mean you're going to court tomorrow, right? And so it could be like months, sometimes years, by the time you actually have to testify to what it is you were doing, right? So this is where having these cases backed up on a file server is useful, because as you become, as it gets closer to court, you can just bring that case in. You can literally walk back through the internet that you investigated all the way from the beginning and get yourself back up to speed before you have to sit in the witness box. Okay, so those are all of the main key feature areas of Hunchly that you really need to fundamentally understand to get the most out of it and how to get information in and out of it. With that being said, I will give a quick demonstration of our report builder. I spend less and less time on this in our demos right now because the interface is changing, and a lot of what I'm going to demonstrate to you is working around the shortfalls. I designed this thing about 4 years ago, and I am the worst interface designer on planet Earth. So how to use our report builder. The first thing to remember about building reports in Hunchly is that you can build them in using 2 pieces of content, captioned images or notes. That is the primary way of getting data into our reports. So our new one is going to include any possible thing you can imagine. There's a much better way for us to get stuff into reports. So how I use it today, still to this day, have always used this report builder because I already have an investigative report template I use in Microsoft Word. So here's what I do. You can set the report title if you want. So we can just say Justin Sites Hunchly report. I'll set a section. So I'll call this section, even if I need to, I can make an executive summary section very quickly and just drag and drop the text paragraph in, edit it, and say, this is my Hunchly stuff. And I'll click save. Okay, fold that back up by clicking here. Nice. Grab another section and drag and drop it in. Call this evidence. Nice. And then usually for me, I grab all notes. That's an option there. Grab them, drop it in. I don't have caption images, but they would be here. Drop all of those in, and then I export to Word document. Okay. So then what I have is a bunch of nice Hunchly information in a document, and I can be pulling it over into my regular investigative template. So what we're going to be doing with the next report builder is getting you much, much closer to a finished product in terms of report, because we know people want to stay in Hunchly if they can. So the tool is going to be much more designed to get you much, much closer to a final report, as opposed to this, which was kind of designed to give you interim reports or produce reports that would allow you to actually just use your regular templates. So that is kind of the real whirlwind tour of reports. And then you can also kick it out to PDF if you want. So I'll just show you what this looks like quickly. Nice. I see some questions coming in. Where did you go? Oh, right here. Cool. So here's a little report. Okay, a little table of contents. And then really what I'm after is this stuff down here. The notes that has the capture date, hash, URL, and the explanation of my note. Of course, in a Word document, it allows me to scale this stuff, move it around, grab the stuff I need, all of that. So that's how I use it. All right. Let me have a look. Is it possible to remove the Hunchly icon on the case export and add our own logo instead? You can, but you would have to just go into the settings and pop it in. So in the report, not in the export, but in the report here in the report builder, you have reporting options in your settings. Okay, so you can set your organization name, put a logo on it. You can even set a document classification. So if it's like confidential for lawyer eyes only, if you put that into the classification, it'll stamp that in the header and footer of every page for you. But the HTML report in the zip file, you would have to edit that manually. So you'd have to like go into this report here and like, I don't know, you open with, what have I got here? Like Notepad, and then go in and just modify it to suit your needs. Or you can just go into this report folder and you can replace logos and stuff in here as well. Okay, so you can do that. All right. Can Hunchly add-on installed on Witness's browser preserve email communication? And if yes, in what format? So yes, people have done this. So people have used Hunchly where they have a witness, and so they'll log into the witness's Facebook account. They then go into their messages and just start scrolling backwards, right? So that has definitely been done. As always, make sure you test in advance. So what it will do is continue to do MHTML captures upwards through the page. So same thing for like anything that's web-based, anything like Telegram, or for example, sorry, my chair just slid off there. Telegram or any of that, you can use the web interface to do it, but test, test, test. You may have to turn on that setting where the page changes are much more aggressive in order to capture everything, but certainly we've had people do that. All right. When will this new report builder be available? The long answer is, well, the short answer is actually, we don't really actually give it a time estimate. So it's not a facetious thing to say, but it's really, when it's ready. It's targeted for Q4 of 2021, could be Q1 of 2022. It's a complex little piece of machinery, and a lot of it was all the pre-planning, the months and months of customer interviews. So hopefully soon, because my team, it must be going well, because I'm not, the first time ever in our company history, I'm not allowed to look at it. I'm not allowed to look at something because they must be excited with how it's going. So hopefully Q4 of 2021, if all things go well. All right, cool. Is the Firefox version of Hunchly still a goal? No, it's not. Nope. It's really not. I mean, Firefox shows a complete lack of willingness to work with us, straight up. I've tried, and I got tired of chasing them. And Microsoft said Chrome over Firefox. So I'm like, you know what? Microsoft, Google, and everybody else is going the Chromium model. Then there's nothing I can do to solve this Firefox problem. I really want to. Like, I have Firefox on my machine. I'm looking at the logo right now. I don't hate Firefox, right? But it's just like there's no possible way that we could get them convinced to add MHTML capture, and we tried. So ultimately, we're just going to keep steering people away from it. And really, from a technician standpoint, and someone who's spent years hacking into things, from a security standpoint, my money's with the Google security team 10 days out of 10, ultimately. So even if you don't like all the Google integration, if you're worried about privacy, Chromium, just use Chromium. It's identical to Chrome and has no Google integration. It's annoying sometimes because you can't like right click and translate a page, or do some integrated stuff that you're probably used to on Chrome. But if you're worried about data leakage, use Chromium. If you're really worried about data leakage, use Brave, right? So that's kind of the thing we tried so long with Firefox. Is this webinar going to be going on your YouTube channel? You bet it is. Very soon. Yeah, Chromium does have other problems. Yeah, it does for Linux users and other people. Totally. Not a perfect ecosystem. Definitely. I agree. Nice, nice. Any tips for long social media pages like Facebook or LinkedIn activity where you have to expand the full post or comments? So yes, the question is, will it automatically resave when you expand a post? In most cases, yes, because what happens is when you expand a post on the web page, because Hunchly is looking for changes right in the page, and so when you click that, what's happening behind the scenes is that the web page is actually reaching out to the server at Facebook and saying, "Hey, bring me more comments." And so when those comments come back, the web page then like redisplays them onto the page, and Hunchly picks that up and then will trigger another capture. So it definitely will pick those up, but test, right? Like I always, honestly, I'm pretty diligent about testing and retesting stuff. Like if I haven't gone to a web page in a while, like if I haven't done a Facebook investigation in a while, I always just go do a couple of little tests, like, well, how are the comments working? How's this working? How's the mobile version look? Often people skip this, and I'm like, I own this product, and it's not that I don't trust it, right? It's the reality is it's the web. Like the web is a complex, like really diverse place. It's tough to nail it. So test, 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 test. You're welcome, Mohammed. Anytime. Awesome, awesome. What is your YouTube site? It is just, if you go to YouTube, I'll paste the channel in. All right. We want to go Hunchly. Boop. The one with about 1,200 subscribers. This one. So this is my webinar from a few weeks ago. 1 week ago, I guess. A week ago, June 3rd. Holy crap. 10 days? Well, no, it was more than that. God, I don't even know what day it is, right? So, yeah, Hunchly Reloaded. This was a great one, but yes, this is where things will be. So I'll just send this channel to all of you so you have it, and this webinar will be on there as well. Cool. Okay, what do we got? Is it really 17 there today? It's going to be 35 here in Colorado. Yes, it is really 17 today. It was 35 yesterday, and it was hot, hot, hot in Saskatoon. Where did the name Hunchly come from? So I just had to explain this to someone this morning. Hunchly was really designed to stay out of the investigator's way and allow them to run on intuition, because I think that's where all of the best breaks and stories and investigations occurs inside the human, not on a machine, not in AI or machine language or whatever. So really, I like operating on hunches, and I'd come up with a couple of different names around it. I was like Hunch Crunch and a bunch of other things. And I was working on the prototype, and I just got tired of not having a name. So my wife and I, Claire, we just said, let's just do Hunchly, and we'll have like a little detective dude or whatever. So I went to 99 Designs, the design competition website. I literally punched in detective logo, and what you see today showed up. And I bought it. I bought for a couple $100. What you see is actually like, it was a designer who had made that logo and offered it up for sale. And I'm like, cool, that's our new dude. That was it. Now, fully recognizing that we are trying to move away from more genderized terms and being more conscious of that, honestly. So you might see some shifts, and you'll see some of that shifting for starters in our mobile application, right? But everybody kind of identifies him as Inspector Hunchly as more of like a personification. He looks a little shifty, but that's really where the name came from. And people also ask us, this question came into our support desk this morning, are you associated with the Libyans? Because the .ly domain signifies the country Libya. And no, it's just simply a play on words, which we found funny that we had to explain. But lo and behold, .ly is not us showing an affiliation to the Libyan government. It is just simply a play on Hunchly. And because the guy who owns Hunchly.com doesn't want to answer my emails. So don't harass him, leave him alone. It's his domain, but we definitely are like, oh, we'd sure love Hunchly.com. But no love so far. We're okay with it though. So that's where the name came from. And the need came from, I needed a tool for me. And that's where it came from. I built it for me, and then slowly it took legs of its own. I'm not seeing a bunch of other questions. So that's great. That's a good sign. This has been a lot of fun as usual. This is a bit more, training oriented, more let's get through stuff. You're going to see more webinars coming up where I'm going to be walking through a little bit Hunchly Desktop, a little bit Hunchly Mobile, and then talking about data forwarding. So in my next webinar, I'm going to be showing you all the YouTube data forwarder, but then I put it on steroids. So in the next webinar, you're going to see me where I browse to a YouTube video, it downloads the YouTube video, it hashes, stores it, then it extracts every frame from the video. It uses these fancy, no, I didn't write this part, but uses these fancy, what's called perceptual hashing to find unique frames in the video. And then we examine the frames for objects using AI at Imaga. So I send those frames off, and it comes back and tells me there's a dog, a cat, a ball, a man, and other objects. So now what I have is the ability to full text search, all on my own, triggered from Hunchly. I can full text search for things like, gun, and it will tell me exactly what video frame and what YouTube video that object was detected. This is really easy to do, actually. So I'll be providing all the code. Everybody can use it for free, and Imaga's great. You can get keys from them. So that's what the next webinar is going to be. It's a little more fun research and development type stuff. But these training sessions will be held roughly every 2 or 3 weeks to make sure everybody's getting what they need from the desktop version. All right. So I will talk to you all soon, and please stay tuned for the recording. We will email it out, and it will be posted to our YouTube channel. I'm not one of those people that's like, go like, subscribe, and smash that thumb button or whatever. So just hopefully I see you around. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.